The chamber was enormous. It stretched high above, with walls that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats, their eyes fixed on the platform at the center. The Galaxy Council had gathered for a trial, and the accused was human. Tamman Park stood in chains on the platform. He was Earth's first diplomat to the stars, chosen for his calm mind and steady heart. He had spent 2 years traveling between worlds, speaking with alien races, trying to build bridges between humanity and the vast universe beyond. Now he stood alone, surrounded by creatures who feared what he represented. The council speaker rose from the highest seat. Its body was tall and thin, covered in silver scales that reflected the light. When it spoke, the words came through a translator device that made the alien language sound almost human. Tamman Park of Earth, the speaker said. You stand accused of representing a dangerous species. Humanity has shown rapid advancement in technology, aggressive expansion tendencies, and a history of internal conflict. The Council has decided that your kind poses a threat to galactic peace. Tamman lifted his head. His face was calm, though his heart beat fast in his chest. He had expected this. The signs had been clear for weeks. The aliens feared Earth not because humans had done anything wrong, but because they had done everything right. In just 200 years, humanity had gone from basic flight to crossing the stars. That speed frightened the older races. I speak for Earth, Tamman said. His voice was steady. We came in peace. We offered friendship. We shared our culture, our music, our stories. We asked only to be part of this great community of worlds. The speaker's eyes, large and yellow, looked down at him without emotion. That is precisely why you are dangerous. Your species learns too quickly. You adapt too fast. You consume resources and expand without limit. The Council has seen species like yours before. They always bring war. Around the chamber, alien voices rose in agreement. Some clicked their mandibles. Others released gases that changed color to show their feelings. A few pounded appendages against their seats. They had already decided. This was not a trial. It was a sentencing. Tamman felt a cold weight settle in his stomach, but he did not let it show on his face. He thought of Earth, so far away. He thought of his family and soul, his brother Dongyun, who worked in the space program, his sister Yunji, who taught children about the stars. He thought of all the humans who had dreamed of this moment when their species would join the cosmic community. Those dreams were dying here, in this chamber of judgment. What is my sentence? Tamman asked. He knew the answer, but he needed to hear it said. The speaker did not hesitate. Death. You will be executed as a message to your species. Earth must understand that it cannot join the Council. Humanity must remain in its own system, isolated, contained. If your kind ventures beyond your borders again, the Council will respond with force. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval. Tamman stood silent, absorbing the words. They would kill him. They would send his body back to Earth as a warning. They hoped to scare humanity into submission, to make them afraid of the stars. They did not understand humans at all. A guard moved forward, a massive creature with 4 arms and armor that glowed with energy. It grabbed Tamman and began to drag him toward a different platform, one with a device that hummed with deadly power. This was the execution device, ancient and efficient. It would be quick, the aliens had told him. Painless. They wanted him to know they were not cruel, just careful. Tamman's mind raced. He had one chance, one moment before they ended his life. His diplomatic suit had a communication device built into the collar designed to send messages back to Earth. It had been disabled by the aliens when they arrested him, but Tamman had spent weeks in his cell working on it, using bits of metal and patience to repair just enough function for one final transmission. As the guards positioned him on the execution platform, Tamman pressed his chin against his chest in what looked like a gesture of defeat. Actually, he was activating the transmitter. He had perhaps 10 seconds before they noticed. He had to make them count. This is Ambassador Tamman Park, he said quietly, his lips barely moving. The Galaxy Council has sentenced me to death. They fear humanity. They want us to stay isolated, to never reach the stars. They think killing me will make Earth afraid. The guards were checking the execution device, making sure it was ready. The crowd had grown quiet, watching, waiting for the moment of death. Tamman took a breath, his final breath of freedom. "Remember me," he said into the transmitter. "But do not mourn. Do not be afraid. Show them who we are. Show them what humans do when someone tries to cage us. Show them that we do not break. We do not bow, and we never ever forget." One of the guards noticed the small light on Tamman's collar. It shouted something, reaching for him. But it was too late. The message had already left the chamber, racing through space toward Earth at faster than light speed. In 3 days, it would reach home. In 3 days, Earth would know what the Council had done. The speaker stood. "Execute the human," it commanded. Tamman Park looked up at the thousands of aliens watching him. He smiled. It was not a smile of fear or sadness. It was a smile of certainty. These creatures thought they were ending a threat. They had no idea what they were about to start. The device activated. Light filled the chamber, and Earth's first diplomat to the stars became its first martyr. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity would receive the message and understand their place in the universe. They thought fear would keep Earth contained. They were wrong about everything. 3 days later, Tamman's final transmission reached Earth. It played in the halls of the United Earth Command. It played in the homes of billions of humans. It played in every language on every screen, to every person on the planet, and in the colonies beyond. The message was clear. The Council had executed an innocent man because they were afraid of what humanity might become. They had chosen violence over diplomacy. They had declared that humans were not welcome among the stars. Earth heard the message. Earth understood it perfectly, and Earth began to prepare for war. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. They had killed the wrong human. They had threatened the wrong species. They had started something they could never finish. The eternal battle was about to begin. Admiral Hana Kim sat in the command center deep beneath Geneva. The room was dark except for the glow of dozens of screens. She had watched Tamman's final transmission 17 times now. Each time her anger grew colder and sharper like ice forming on steel. Around her, the other members of United Earth Command sat in silence. General Yuri Volkov from the Russian territories, Commander Amara Okonkwo from the African Union, Marshal Liu Wei from the Pacific Alliance, Director James Crawford from the American Federation. They represented every major power on Earth, and for once, they all agreed on something. "Play it again," said Marshal Liu. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard the fury beneath it. Hana nodded to her aide. The screen lit up once more with Tamman's face. His calm words filled the room. "Show them who we are. Show them what humans do when someone tries to cage us." The transmission ended. The room stayed silent for a long moment. General Volkov spoke first. "They executed a diplomat, a man who came in peace. They did not even give him a real trial." His accent was thick, his words heavy with disgust. Commander Okonkwo leaned forward. "They killed him to send us a message. To make us afraid. To keep us locked in our own system like animals in a cage." Her dark eyes flashed with anger. "I say we send them a message in return." "Agreed," said Director Crawford. The American was known for his careful thinking, his preference for negotiation over conflict. But now his jaw was set hard. "They have declared their intentions. They see us as a threat simply for existing, simply for being good at survival. That is not justice. That is fear." Marshal Liu nodded slowly. "Fear can be useful, but they fear the wrong thing. They fear our potential. They should fear our resolve." All eyes turned to Admiral Hana Kim. She was the Supreme Commander of Earth's defensive forces, the highest military authority on the planet. The decision would be hers to make, though she knew what the vote would be. "I propose full mobilization," Hana said. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the room like a blade. "No negotiations. No diplomacy. No half measures. The Galaxy Council has shown us what they think of peace. We will show them what we think of murder." "Seconded," said Volkov immediately. "All in favor?" Hana asked. Every hand rose. Not one person hesitated. Then it is decided, Hana said. As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Galaxy Council. We will not stop until every world that voted for Tamman's death has answered for that crime. We will not forgive. We will not forget. And we will never surrender. She pressed a button on her console. Across Earth, in every military base, every shipyard, every research facility, alarms began to sound. The mobilization had begun. In the weeks that followed, Earth transformed. The planet had always been good at war. Humans had practiced it for thousands of years, perfecting the art of organized violence. But they had never before united all of humanity against a single enemy. Now they had one. Every factory retooled for military production. Every shipyard worked around the clock building warships. Every able person was given a choice: join the military, work in production, or contribute to the science effort. Nearly everyone chose one of the three. There were no protests, no resistance. Tamman's death had united humanity in a way nothing else ever had. Do-Yun Choi stood in his laboratory, staring at the alien device on the table. He was Earth's leading expert on xenotechnology, the man who had spent 5 years studying the few pieces of alien equipment humanity had acquired through trade. Now his work had a new purpose. Project Phoenix is ready for demonstration, he said to the officials gathered in his lab. Among them was Admiral Hana herself, who had come to see what her scientists had created. Do-Yun picked up what looked like a rifle, but it was unlike any weapon Earth had made before. This is a plasma accelerator. We reverse-engineered it from Council technology, but we made it better. Faster charge time, more stable containment field. Humans are good at taking something that works and making it work better. He aimed at a test target and fired. The weapon released a bolt of superheated matter that turned the target into vapor instantly. The officials watched with approval. We have more, Do-Yun continued. He moved to the next table. Gravitational mines. They create a localized gravity well strong enough to crush a ship's hull. Also based on Council tech, also improved. He pulled up a hologram showing a ship being torn apart by invisible forces. Admiral Hana stepped closer. How long until we can equip the fleet? 6 months for basic weapons. 1 year for full integration of all systems, Do-Yun said. We are working as fast as we can, but some of this technology is complex. You have 4 months, Hana said. Her tone left no room for argument. The Council thinks we are primitive. They think our technology is crude. We are going to prove them wrong. Do-Yun nodded. He understood. There was no time for perfection. Good enough would have to be good enough. We will meet the deadline, Admiral. As Hana left the laboratory, she made her way to the orbital shipyards above Earth. These massive structures had been built to construct colony ships and mining vessels. Now they built instruments of war. Captain Ji-Ho Lee met her at the docking bay. He was young for a captain, only 32 years old. But he had proven himself in the border skirmishes with pirates and the rescue operations during the Mars colony disaster. Now he would prove himself against the aliens. Admiral, Ji-Ho saluted sharply. The fleet is ahead of schedule. We will have 80 warships ready for deployment in 3 months. Hana looked out the window at the construction zone. Ships in various stages of completion floated in the void, surrounded by construction drones and workers in spacesuits. It was beautiful in a terrible way. An entire civilization preparing for war. 80 ships against how many Council vessels? Hana asked. Intelligence estimates they have over 2,000 military ships across their member worlds, Ji-Ho said. But they are spread thin, protecting many systems. We would never face them all at once. Still poor odds, Hana observed. Ji-Ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. Humans have won against poor odds before. We are good at being outnumbered. Hana turned to face him. Captain Lee, I am giving you command of the first strike fleet. 20 ships, our fastest and most advanced. Your mission will be to hit the Council where it hurts most. Show them that Earth is not afraid. Show them that we can reach them anywhere. Ji-Ho's eyes widened slightly. This was the assignment every officer wanted. The chance to lead humanity's first real offensive action against the aliens. I am honored, Admiral. We will not fail. I know you will not, Hana said. Because failure means everything we love gets destroyed. The Council has shown us what they do to humans they fear. If we lose this war, they will not just execute diplomats. They will sterilize our entire planet. The weight of those words hung in the air. Both of them knew it was true. The Council had already demonstrated their willingness to kill. If humanity lost this fight, there would be no second chances, no negotiations, no mercy. Then we will win, Ji-Ho said simply. Hana placed a hand on his shoulder. Tamman Park's last words were to show them who we are. I want you to remember that when you engage the enemy, show them what humans become when you murder one of our own. Show them what we do when someone tries to put us in a cage. Yes, Admiral, Jiho said. I will make sure they never forget. Across Earth and its colonies, millions of people prepared for the coming conflict. Children too young to remember a time before first contact learned to operate defense systems. Elderly who had lived through the last great wars of Earth volunteered to teach tactics and strategy. Scientists worked until they collapsed, then woke up and continued working. One phrase appeared everywhere. On ships, on uniforms, on the screens in every home. Two words that became humanity's promise to the galaxy. Remember Tamman. The Council had executed one human. They thought it would end a problem. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to unite. They had given Earth a purpose beyond simple survival. They had turned every human in existence into a soldier with a single mission. The eternal battle had not yet begun. But Earth was ready. And when humanity finally reached the stars with weapons instead of open hands, the Galaxy Council would learn the truth about the species they had tried to intimidate. Humans did not scare easily, and they never forgave. The Andromeda Gate hung in space like a massive ring of metal and light. It was one of the Council's most important structures, a transportation hub that connected dozens of star systems. Thousands of ships passed through it every day, carrying goods and passengers between the core worlds of the galaxy. The Council had built it 3,000 years ago, back when humanity was still figuring out agriculture. Now, Captain Jiho Lee and his fleet approached it with one purpose: destruction. Distance to target? Jiho asked from his command chair. Around him, the bridge crew of the battleship Incheon worked at their stations with focused intensity. Every person there had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not return. 2 million kilometers and closing, reported Lieutenant Mina Song from the navigation console. They have not detected us yet, Jiho nodded. That was the advantage of human engineering. The Council's sensors were powerful but predictable. They looked for specific energy signatures, certain types of engines. Humanity had studied those sensors carefully and designed their ships to slip past them, at least for a while. Weapons status? Jiho asked. Commander Hyunwoo Kang, his second-in-command, checked his display. All ships report ready. Plasma accelerators charged. Gravitational mines deployed in formation beta. Missile bays loaded with nuclear and antimatter warheads. We are as ready as we will ever be. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had gone from first spaceflight to this moment in just over 2 centuries. The Council had thousands of years of technological advancement, but humans had something the aliens did not: the absolute certainty that they were fighting for survival. Communications. Open channel to all ships, Jiho ordered. Channel open? Sir, said Ensign Borum Park. Jiho took a breath. This was it. The moment Earth struck back. The moment humanity announced to the galaxy that they would not be caged, would not be threatened, and would certainly not be ignored. All ships. This is Captain Lee. In a few minutes we will engage the enemy. They outnumber us. Their technology is ancient and proven. They have every advantage except one. He paused, letting his words sink in. They think they know what we will do. They think we will fight like them, with honor and rules and predictable tactics. They are wrong. He could imagine the crews on the other 19 ships listening to his words, preparing themselves for battle. Today we show the Council what humans learned in 10,000 years of fighting each other. We show them that we are not bound by their rules. We show them that when you execute our diplomats, you do not get mercy. You get war. Remember Tamman. Make them pay. Across the fleet, a response came back. Remember Tamman. Begin attack run, Jiho commanded. The 20 human warships dropped their stealth measures and accelerated toward the Andromeda Gate at full power. Immediately, alarms sounded on the Council's defense platforms. The aliens had sensors everywhere, and now those sensors screamed warnings about unknown hostile vessels approaching at high speed. The Gate's defensive fleet began to respond. 40 Council warships that had been docked or on patrol lit up their engines and moved to intercept. They were larger than the human vessels, more heavily armored, with weapons that had destroyed pirates and raiders for centuries. But they had never fought humans before. Enemy vessels closing. They are attempting to form a defensive line in front of the gate, reported Lieutenant Mina. Do not let them, Jiho said. All ships execute maneuver Alpha 7. The human fleet scattered. Instead of approaching in formation, each ship took a different vector, different speed, different angle. The Council ships tried to track them, but their tactics were designed for enemies that fought in organized groups. The sudden chaos confused their targeting systems. The first human ship to reach weapons range was the destroyer Gwangju, commanded by Captain Suho Bai. It did not slow down or attempt to engage in a traditional broadside exchange. Instead, it dove straight toward the largest Council battleship and released a swarm of small drones. The Council ship's point defense systems activated, destroying most of the drones. But 3 got through. They attached themselves to the battleship's hull and activated. The gravitational mines created localized distortions in spacetime. The Council ship's armor, designed to withstand energy weapons and kinetic impacts, could not handle the fundamental forces of physics being twisted around it. The hull crumpled like paper. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship broke into 3 pieces. The Council fleet hesitated. That moment of shock was all humanity needed. All ships, free engagement, Jiho ordered. The battle became a storm of violence. Human ships moved like insects, quick and unpredictable. They would fire plasma bolts, then immediately change direction. They would launch missiles that flew erratic paths, making interception nearly impossible. They would get close, too close for comfort, and release more of those terrible gravitational weapons before darting away. The Council ships tried to respond, but their tactics were centuries old. They formed defensive formations. They coordinated their fire. They followed the rules of galactic warfare that had been written long before humans left their planet. Humans did not care about those rules. The battleship Incheon came up beneath a Council cruiser, positioning itself in the blind spot of the alien ship's weapons. Jiho gave the order to fire everything. Plasma bolts ripped into the cruiser's underbelly. Nuclear missiles detonated against its engines. When the smoke cleared, the cruiser was drifting, dead in space. Target destroyed, Commander Hyunwoo reported. Moving to next target. Around them, the other human ships were winning their own battles. The destroyer Busan rammed a Council frigate at full speed, its reinforced bow tearing through the alien vessel like it was made of tissue. The cruiser Daejeon unleashed a spread of antimatter missiles that turned 2 Council ships into clouds of expanding debris. But humans were dying too. The destroyer Ulsan took a direct hit from a Council plasma cannon. Its shields failed. Its hull breached. 73 humans died in an instant. The cruiser Jeonju was caught between 3 enemy ships and torn apart by concentrated fire. We have lost 2 ships, Lieutenant Mina reported, her voice tight with emotion. Note their sacrifice, Jiho said quietly. We will honor them when this is done. For now we fight. The battle raged for 47 minutes. When it ended, the Council's defensive fleet was destroyed. All 40 ships were either debris or hulks drifting in space. The human fleet had lost 4 vessels, but 16 remained operational, and the Andromeda Gate stood before them. Defenseless, deploy the charges, Jiho ordered. Teams of engineers in small shuttles approached the massive structure. The gate was enormous, kilometers across, humming with power. It had stood for 3,000 years, a symbol of the Council's dominance and technological superiority. It had connected worlds and enabled an empire. The humans placed explosive charges at key structural points, following the plans that Earth's best engineers had developed. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. All teams report charges in place, said Commander Hyunwoo. Jiho looked at the gate one last time. Destroying it would cut off dozens of worlds from each other. It would cripple trade and travel. It would show the Council that nowhere was safe from human reach. Detonate, he said. The charges exploded simultaneously. The gate, that ancient wonder of alien engineering, shuddered. Cracks appeared along its surface. Secondary explosions rippled through its power systems. And then, with a flash of energy that lit up the surrounding space, the Andromeda Gate collapsed. Debris scattered in all directions. Warning buoys activated, broadcasting distress signals, and across the galaxy, Council worlds suddenly found themselves cut off from their network. Gate destroyed, Lieutenant Mina reported. The job is done. Jiho stood from his command chair. Send a message to the Council. Tell them this is for Tamman Park. Tell them this is just the beginning. Tell them that Earth remembers. The message was transmitted on all council frequencies impossible to ignore or block. Every alien listening would hear it. Every world would know what humanity had done. The council had executed one diplomat. In return, humans had destroyed a strategic asset that took generations to build and killed hundreds of their finest warriors. The math was clear. The message was simple. If you hurt one of us, we will hurt you more. The human fleet began its journey back to Earth. They moved slowly, damaged but victorious. Behind them, the wreckage of the Andromeda Gate tumbled through space, a monument to the Council's mistake. In the command centers of a dozen alien worlds, leaders watched the destruction in horror. They had thought humans would be easy to contain. They had believed that killing Tamman would frighten Earth into submission. Instead, they had unleashed something they did not understand. A species that did not fight for honor or glory, but for revenge. A species that would sacrifice their own lives just to hurt their enemies. A species that, when pushed to the edge, pushed back with absolute violence. The Council called an emergency session. They debated their response. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded an overwhelming military response to crush humanity before they could become an even greater threat. But all of them, even those who tried to hide it, felt something they had not experienced in centuries. Fear, because they were beginning to understand what Tamman Park had known in his final moments. The thing he had smiled about before his execution. 30 years had passed since the destruction of the Andromeda Gate. An entire generation of humans had been born knowing only war. Children learned to shoot before they learned to read. Schools taught tactics alongside mathematics. Every person on Earth and its colonies understood their purpose. Fight until the Council falls. Commander Soman Kang drifted in the darkness between stars, her combat suit the only thing keeping her alive. Around her, 11 other soldiers floated in the void, invisible to sensors, waiting for the signal to attack. They were ghosts. That was what the Council called them now. Human soldiers who appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Salman had been leading ghost operations for 7 years. In that time, she had destroyed 19 Council facilities, killed countless alien soldiers, and never lost a single member of her team. "Target approaching," whispered Corporal Taeyong Im through the secure channel. His voice was calm despite the fact that they were about to attack a council. Supply depot protected by automated defenses and a garrison of 200 aliens. Soman watched the massive supply ship drift closer to the depot. It was carrying weapons and food for a council military base 3 systems away. That base would never receive its supplies, not if Sumin had anything to do with it. "Remember the plan," she said softly to her team. "Fast, brutal, gone. We are not here to fight fair. We are here to make them afraid." The team responded with clicks on their communication devices. No words needed. They had done this so many times that it had become almost routine. Almost. Each mission could still be their last. The supply ship docked with the depot. Automated systems began transferring cargo. This was the moment of vulnerability Soman had been waiting for. When the ship's shields dropped to allow physical connection. When the depot's attention was focused on the transfer process. "Go," Soman commanded. The 12 humans activated their propulsion packs and flew toward the depot at high speed. They moved without lights, without sound, like arrows shot from the darkness. The Council's sensors, designed to detect ships and large objects, missed the small signatures of individual soldiers. They landed on the outer hull of the depot. Immediately, Sergeant Kiwan Park began placing breaching charges while Private Nari Cho hacked into the station's external maintenance systems. Within 30 seconds, they had access. "We are in," Nari reported. "Disabling internal sensors in sections 7 through 12. The team entered through a maintenance hatch, finding themselves in a dark corridor designed for automated drones, not living beings. Perfect for an ambush. They moved through the depot like a disease spreading through a body, silent, efficient, deadly. The first group of alien soldiers they encountered never had a chance to raise an alarm. Soman's team used weapons designed to kill quietly, vibroblades that disrupted molecular bonds, neurotoxin darts, plasma bolts at minimal power to avoid detection. 20 aliens died in the first 5 minutes. None of them understood what was happening until it was too late. The depot commander finally realized something was wrong when 3 sections stopped reporting. It sent a security team to investigate. That team found bodies but no enemies. The humans had already moved to a different section, targeting the depot's power core. "Charges placed," reported Corporal Taeyong. "We can detonate on your command." Soman checked her tactical display. The supply ship was still docked, still transferring cargo. Destroying the depot now would take out both the facility and the ship, doubling their impact. But there was something else. Her sensors showed a Council troop transport approaching, probably responding to the distress signal the depot had finally managed to send. That transport carried 300 soldiers. A normal military force would withdraw at this point. Mission accomplished. Time to escape before overwhelming numbers arrived. But Somin was not leading a normal military force. She was leading humans who had learned to turn every disadvantage into a weapon. "Change of plans," Somin said. "We are staying." Her team did not question the order. They trusted her completely, had followed her through dozens of impossible situations. If she said they were staying, there was a reason. "Private Nari, can you hack the depot's docking controls?" Soman asked. Nari was already working on it. "Yes, Commander." "What do you need?" "When that troop transport docks, I want you to lock it in place. Make sure it cannot detach or maneuver. Can you do that?" A moment of silence, then Nari's voice came back with a hint of dark amusement. "Oh, I see. Yes, Commander. I can do that." The transport approached the depot, requesting permission to dock. The automated systems granted it, following standard protocols. The transport connected to the docking port, extending its boarding ramp. "Now," Somin said. Nari executed the hack. The docking clamps engaged at full force, essentially welding the transport to the depot. At the same moment, Corporal Taeyong detonated the charges placed throughout the facility. The explosion started at the power core and rippled outward. The depot's fusion reactor went critical. The supply ship, still connected, exploded as its fuel reserves ignited. The troop transport, locked in place, could not escape as the flames and debris consumed it. 300 Council soldiers died without firing a shot. Soman and her team had already left, using the chaos of the explosion to mask their escape. They flew back into the darkness between stars, invisible once more, already planning their next target. "Clean execution," Sergeant Kiwan commented as they made their way to the extraction point where their stealth ship waited. "The Council will be furious." "Good," Soman said. "Fury makes them sloppy. Sloppy makes them vulnerable." This was the pattern of the war now. Humans could not match the Council in large fleet battles, could not hold territory against their numbers. But humans could do something the aliens had never encountered before. They could make the Council afraid of empty space, suspicious of their own facilities, paranoid about every shadow. Ghost teams operated across 12 systems now. Hundreds of soldiers trained in the same tactics Soman used. They struck supply lines, destroyed communications relays, assassinated Council leaders. Every day, somewhere in the galaxy, humans killed aliens who thought they were safe. But the human war effort went far beyond ghost operations. Back on Earth and its colonies, the military had evolved in ways that would horrify any civilized species. In the cloning facilities beneath New Tokyo, thousands of new soldiers were being grown. When a human warrior died in battle, their genetic material and neural patterns were already stored. Within months, they would be reborn, memories mostly intact, ready to fight again. Death was no longer permanent for humanity's best soldiers. The Council called it abomination. They said it was unnatural, wrong, against the laws of life itself. Humanity did not care about the Council's moral judgments. The aliens had started this war with an execution. They had no right to complain about how humans fought back. In the augmentation centers on Mars, volunteers underwent procedures that made them more than human. Enhanced muscles, reinforced bones, neural implants that accelerated reaction time. Some received cybernetic eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. Others got limbs that could tear through steel. They traded their humanity for the power to hurt the Council more effectively. These augmented soldiers formed the elite units, the ones sent against the hardest targets. They could survive in environments that would kill normal humans, fight for days without rest, think and react faster than any organic brain had the right to. One such soldier was Sergeant First Class Jinsu Huang. He had undergone full military augmentation 5 years ago. Now his body was 60% mechanical, his mind enhanced by quantum processors that made him a tactical genius in real-time combat. He stood in the briefing room on the warship Seoul, looking at the holographic display of their next target. A council research station where alien scientists were developing new weapons to use against humanity. The station is heavily defended, said the intelligence officer giving the briefing. Shields, point defense systems, and a garrison of augmented council warriors. They call them the exemplars, their best soldiers enhanced with genetic engineering and combat drugs. Jinsu smiled. His face was scarred from a plasma burn he had received 2 years ago, but the smile was genuine. Perfect. I wanted to test myself against their best. The officer looked uncomfortable. Sergeant Huang, this is not a game. The exemplars have killed many humans. Then we will kill them back, Jinsu said simply. That is what we do. That is all we do now. It was true. Humanity had become a species with a single purpose. Everything else, art, culture, joy, peace, all of it was secondary to the war. Children sang songs about killing aliens. Poets wrote verses about revenge. Artists painted images of council worlds burning. The phrase "Remember Tamman" had evolved from a rallying cry into something deeper. It was a promise, a prayer, a fundamental truth of human existence. Every human alive knew the story of Tamman Park, the diplomat who died to show his people what they faced. His image was on every wall, his words memorized by every child. The council had tried everything to stop humanity. They sent fleets, but human tactics confused and destroyed them. They established defensive perimeters, but ghost teams infiltrated and sabotaged them. They addy. 50 years after Tamman Park's execution, General Minho An stood in the ruins of the Galaxy Council chamber. The once magnificent building was a skeleton now, its walls cracked and burned, its grand ceiling collapsed. Bodies of alien councilors lay where they had fallen, trying to flee as human forces stormed the structure. Minho was 73 years old, though his augmented body made him look and move like a man in his 30s. He had been a young soldier when the war began, one of the first to volunteer after watching Tamman's final transmission. Now he commanded all of Earth's military forces, the most powerful human who had ever lived. Behind him, a platoon of soldiers secured the area. These were not the scared, uncertain humans who had first gone to war 5 decades ago. These were warriors born and raised in conflict, children of the eternal battle. They knew nothing but fighting. They were very good at it. "General, we have captured several council members alive," reported Colonel Yuna Lee. She was young, only 25, part of the generation that had never known peace. "They are asking to speak with you." Minho nodded slowly. "Bring them here." 6 aliens were dragged into the chamber by human soldiers. They were the survivors of the council leadership, the ones who had not managed to escape or commit suicide when Earth's forces arrived. They looked at Minho with eyes that showed fear and resignation. One of them, a tall alien with silver scales that Minho recognized as the same species that had been council speaker 50 years ago, stepped forward. Its translator device crackled to life. "General An," it said, "we wish to discuss terms of surrender. The Council is willing to recognize Earth as a sovereign power. We will grant humanity full membership in the galactic community. We will pay reparations. We will do whatever you ask. Just end this war." Minho stared at the alien for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was not a happy sound. "You want to discuss terms," Minho said, his voice carrying through the ruined chamber. "After 50 years, after millions of deaths, after you turned my species into a race of killers, now you want to negotiate." The alien counselor shifted nervously. "We made a mistake. We admit that. The execution of Ambassador Park was wrong. We were afraid, and we acted poorly. But surely we can move past that now. Surely we can find peace." Minho walked closer to the aliens. His boots crunched on debris and broken glass. "You think this is about peace? You think we fought for 5 decades just to get membership in your council?" He stopped directly in front of the silver-scaled alien. "Let me tell you what this war is about. It is about a man named Tamman Park who came to you in peace, who offered friendship, who represented the best of humanity. And you murdered him. You killed him to send a message, to frighten us, to keep us in our place." Minho's voice grew colder. "We received your message, and we sent one back. Every ship we destroyed, every world we burned, every one of your soldiers we killed. That was our reply. And now you stand in your ruined council chamber, surrounded by the bodies of your leaders. and you ask for peace. The alien started to speak, but Minho cut it off. There will be no peace. There will never be peace, not for you, not for any species that voted to execute Tamman Park. But the war is over, the alien protested desperately. You have won. You have destroyed our fleet, conquered our worlds, killed our people. What more do you want? Minho smiled. It was a terrible smile. The smile of a man who had spent 50 years learning how to hate. I want you to understand. I want every species in this galaxy to understand what happens when you hurt humans, when you kill one of our own. He turned to Colonel Yuna. Execute them. No, the silver-scaled alien shouted. You cannot do this. We are prisoners. We are trying to surrender. This violates every rule of warfare. Minho looked back at the alien. Your council executed our diplomat. Did that follow the rules? Did that respect the laws of war? He shook his head. You made the rules clear 50 years ago. There are no rules. There is only power and will. And we have more of both than you do. The human soldiers raised their weapons. The aliens backed away, but there was nowhere to go, no escape. Please, the silver-scaled alien begged. Show mercy. Show that humanity is better than this. Humanity was better than this, Minho said quietly. We were peaceful. We wanted to explore and learn and make friends among the stars. You took that away from us when you murdered Tamman Park. You turned us into something else. Something harder. Something that does not forgive. He gave the signal. The soldiers fired. The aliens fell. Minho stood among the bodies and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no remorse, nothing at all. He had become exactly what the war required, a man who could kill without hesitation or guilt. Colonel Yuna approached him. General, we have reports from across the former council territories. Resistance has collapsed. Most worlds are requesting terms. Some are offering unconditional surrender. No terms, Minho said. No surrender. For species that voted to execute Tamman, there is only one option: complete dismantlement of their civilization. Strip them of advanced technology, scatter their populations, make sure they can never threaten anyone again. Yuna nodded, writing down the orders. She had expected nothing less. The younger generation understood the mission even better than Minho's generation did. They had been raised with it, taught from birth that vengeance was not just a right but a duty. What about species that abstained from the vote or voted against the execution? Yuna asked. Those can be given basic terms, Minho said. They did not kill Tamman. They do not need to be destroyed, but they will be monitored. Forever. Earth will never again trust the galaxy. Over the following months, humanity implemented what became known as the Great Dismantling. Council worlds that had voted for Tamman's execution saw their cities reduced to pre-industrial levels. Their weapons were destroyed, their spacecraft were confiscated, their populations were divided and moved to different planets, ensuring they could never unite again. Some humans questioned whether this was too harsh, whether 50 years of war was not enough revenge for one man's death. But those voices were few and quiet. Most humans supported the dismantling completely. Tamman's image still hung in every home, his final words still memorized by every child. The phrase "Remember Tamman" had become humanity's core identity. On Earth, massive monuments were built to commemorate the war. The largest stood in Seoul, Tamman's home city. It was a black wall with the names of every human who had died in the conflict. Millions of names carved in stone, a permanent reminder of what the war had cost. But next to that wall of the dead was another monument, a statue of Tamman Park, standing tall, looking toward the stars. And on the base of that statue were his final words: "Show them who we are." General Minho An visited that monument one evening, 55 years after the war began. He was old now, even with augmentation. His body was failing. He would not live much longer. He stood before Tamman's statue and spoke quietly, as if the bronze figure could hear him. "We showed them. We showed the entire galaxy what humans become when you try to cage us, when you murder our people. We showed them that we do not forgive, that we do not forget, that we will burn the stars themselves if that is what vengeance requires. He was quiet for a moment, then continued. I do not know if you would be proud of what we became. We are not the peaceful species you represented. We are not diplomats and explorers anymore. We are soldiers and conquerors. We are the thing that the Council feared we might become. The statue did not answer, of course, but Minho felt that somewhere, somehow, Tamman understood. He had known what his death would start. He had known that humanity would respond with overwhelming force. His final words had not been a call for peace. They had been a call for revelation. Show them who we are. And humanity had shown the galaxy exactly what they were. A species that would fight forever if necessary, that would sacrifice everything for revenge, that would become monsters if that was what survival required. Across the former Council territories, alien species lived in fear now. They told stories about humans to frighten their children. They warned each other never to provoke Earth, never to harm a human, never to forget what happened to those who did. Humanity had become the galaxy's boogeyman, the nightmare that kept civilizations awake at night. And they embraced that role. Let the aliens fear. Let them remember what happened to the Council. Let them never forget that humanity, once provoked, would fight an eternal battle. On ships patrolling the borders of human space, soldiers still ended their shifts with the old phrase, "Remember Tamman." New recruits too young to have known the war learned the story and understood its meaning. The war might be over, but the vigilance would never end. Because Earth had learned the galaxy's greatest lesson. Kindness was seen as weakness. Diplomacy was met with contempt. The only language the stars understood was power, and the only way to be respected was to be feared. Tamman Park had offered the galaxy friendship, and they had killed him for it. So humanity had given them something else instead, something permanent and terrible. They had given them fear that would last for generations. The eternal battle was over. The shooting had stopped. The ships had returned home. But in a deeper sense, the war would never truly end. Because humanity would never forgive what was done to Tamman Park. They would never forget.